Hello, welcome back to the Cricket Nerds. Today, me and Benji are going to be covering the games from the last week or so of the World Cup. Um, it continues to be a pretty good World Cup if you're not an England supporter. Um, every other team seems to be doing okay. We are going to be talking about the India-Sri Lanka game. We didn't get a podcast out straight after that game happened, so stay tuned because we will be talking about that later on in the podcast. So let's just get into Australia versus England. The last game that's happened, it's just finished. England got beaten again.
Yeah.
What are your initial emotions after watching that game, Bench?
England are just rubbish. Um, just a whole heap of rubbish. I think it's England seem to again grasp defeat from the jaws of victory again because when Australia were bowled out for 286, that felt like it was a gettable score. Like it felt like that England had done the hard work,
Mm,
in terms of putting it in with the ball, um, only to then just not be able to bat. England, this team who have been renowned for so long as being a very strong batting side in the white ball format, just haven't been able to perform. And I think the tone was set from the very first ball of England's innings, where Johnny Bairstow played all around one and nicked one behind to Josh Inglis, a strangle down the leg side, which you never like to see,
especially
but
first up.
especially for the first ball of the innings. But I think England again performed really well with the ball. I think Chris Wokes bowled fantastically. Mark Wood eventually came in there and was able to pick up a couple of wickets, even though he was a bit expensive. I think Adil Rashid was an absolute magician with the ball as well. He looked unplayable, but what that then led to was Adam Zampa being an absolute wizard in Australia innings, as well.
Mm.
So yeah, and the thing is, I think the difference between the two teams in the end was also Adam Zampa's not with the bat.
Yeah.
Like I think England were looking like they were wrapping it up okay, and then Zampa comes in and just plays that cameo at the end, and I just don't know what's gone on with England. They are looking nothing like themselves. Even though there was a lot of signs of promise in this game. Like I think Willie and Wokes bowled really well first up, and it
Yeah.
looked like it was going okay, and then it just didn't.
Yeah, you
Um,
could present a case that this was England's best performance of the World Cup so far,
hmm,
given how well they fielded their bowling lineup and the regularity with which they took their wickets in the middle overs was more like what we are used to, I guess, with this England team from the last 8 years or so. Um, and in terms of their batting, I know they lost a couple early wickets, and I want to talk a bit more about that later. But the way that they responded and they kept batting the whole way down, even when they'd lost a few wickets toward the end, they were 8 for 216 or 7 for 186, even when they lost Moeen Ali. David Willey came out and Chris Wokes, and they batted okay. And then Adil Rashid came in and played a bit of a cameo. So this this England team of old just batted the whole way through. And even if you were 6 down, 7 down, you still think they'd put up a decent total or chase it down.
hmm.
But for me, the difference is that Australia, they've won the last 4 games on the bounce. This is now their 5th game winning in a row. England have lost their last 4 games. So the difference between the two teams is Australia, they know how to win games of cricket. England just aren't in the mindset of winning games of cricket. But coming back to England, they're kind of having the test sort of mindset of 20 for 2, uh, 30 for 3 sort of thing going on at the moment. And when you look at how well England have performed, it has been that top order solidarity, hasn't it?
It has in the past, but we just haven't seen that at all in this World Cup. I think Milan looked okay as well. Milan and Stokes managed to pull a partnership together today, which again I think was impressive, and that was probably one of England's better partnerships that we've seen through here. Um, but they just did a less good job of what Steve Smith and Monos Labuschagne did. So, you know, they were also down at Australia were down at 38 for two, similarly to how England were down at 19 for two.
Mm.
But Labuschagne and Smith really pull the partnership, quite a large partnership together. And Milan and Stokes did a similar thing. But the difference was as soon as Milan hit 50, he got out. He didn't kick on, whereas Labuschagne managed to kick on him for a bit longer. I have to say, to break that partnership, it was an absolute fantastic catch for Marinelli.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was really impressive. But yeah, as you said, it seemed like it was one of England's better performances. But again, they just it wasn't enough again, and they've just through this whole tournament have been struggling and just don't look like themselves. They don't look like this reigning champion team.
No.
And yeah, it's a real shame to watch.
Yeah, I mean Australia, they've got all the tools at the moment. I know they missed Maxwell and Marsh greatly. That could have been the difference between them scoring 350 to 250, 280. I mean, they've got that. Hopefully coming. I don't know if Maxwell is going to be able to play in the remainder of the tournament or if Marsh is going to come back. Who knows? But Cameron Green looked pretty good today, and Adam Zampa, every game he seems to be getting better and better. And that Australian bowling attack, their real strength is that, isn't it? And there's a good chance that they can go all the way to the final. I don't know if they'd win because of India, but that's that. So during this game, Pakistan and New Zealand were also playing, and I was keeping tabs on that one because I know England were basically out before they even started this game. However, if Pakistan won, which they did, England were still in with the chance. And New Zealand put up 401 for six, including another masterful century by Rachin Ravindra.
I mean, what a player he is. He's turned out to be.
He just looks so good. And New Zealand coming into this game, they also have lost quite a few on the bounce. I think they lost 3 on the bounce before coming into this game. So to lose 3 in a row and then put up 400, I mean, that is ridiculous. But yeah, just talk to me about Rachin Ravindra and Kane Williamson coming back and just hitting 95 with a strike rate of over 120. Crazy.
Yeah, it was impressive. I mean, for me, the big story is Pakistan, but I want to come on to that in a second. But yeah, Ravindra again. I mean, this guy, like, I really was not convinced by him when they recently played against England. So when the New Zealand and recently toured England and went through, I was not really convinced at all by by Ravindra, but in this World Cup, he has just turned it on and become something else. Like I think that responsibility that he's been given at the top of the order, he's just completely thrived and he just played with such freedom the whole way through. This is his third or fourth century in the World Cup now?
Yeah, I think it's his third.
Yeah,
Might be his
third
fourth,
century now.
but yeah,
Yeah, he just keeps smashing them out, doesn't he? And yeah, definitely with that. Previously, I didn't think he performed as well when he was opening compared to coming in at number 3, but he's silenced me there, hasn't he? And I think he's been that little bit of electricity that New Zealand have needed to really kick start and get them back into like a winning mindset.
Yeah.
Kane Williamson too came out and hit a glorious, I think 95 or something like that. And it seemed like it sort of Kane Williamson of old. And again, it's another example where these teams are turning it on at the right time. However, having put up a score of 401 for 6, they still lost.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
It's the most Pakistan thing I've ever seen. It's just to win just because of rain, basically. I mean, I think even if the rain didn't come down, the way Fakhar Zaman was batting, it was absolutely brutal. And this
I
New
think
Zealand,
Pakistan had almost got themselves into like a semi-winning position just
yeah,
through the hitting of Fakhar Zaman. Like,
yeah, it's crazy. And Babar Azam, he looked very impressive, back to his usual best. But it's it's strange, really, because this New Zealand bowling attack, they are struggling. I think we said they'd be struggling for their second choice spinner, um, with Ish Sodhi not being as he's not as world class as someone like a Adam Zampa or Ravi Jadeja or someone like that.
yeah,
He's not quite got that experience either, and they've been relying a lot on Glenn Phillips, and that train's not going to continue forever, is it? I mean, Glenn Phillips, at the end of the day, is a part-time bowler. He can't keep burgling economies of four and getting big names out. Um, but yeah,
just
they're
against England.
just against England. Yeah, there just seems to be something missing in that New Zealand bowling attack. Um, just a bit of extra spice. I mean, Lockie Ferguson, it could come from him, but he's not really been in that great form. So it's it's hard for New Zealand at the moment. They are suffering a bit of a downfall. They've got something missing, and their spot in the semi-final is in danger. Um,
Yeah, agree.
I mean, who knows if they're going to be able to make it, even given the form of Australia, Pakistan coming through now. I mean, they're joint on points now with Pakistan, and their net run rate is only slightly better. I guess the big thing for New Zealand is that they're playing Sri Lanka next, and Sri Lanka haven't been doing that well. But Pakistan are playing England next, so yeah, all to play for really for that fourth semi-final spot. And it's looking pretty spicy. Um,
I think what New Zealand are really missing is Matt Henry
oh yeah, for sure.
because he had to withdraw from the competition. I think that his absence has really hit them hard because I think Matt Henry was giving them that bit of extra X factor. Um, so supporting Trent Bolt opening the bowling, Matt Henry has just been such a stalwart of that team this year. I think he's their top wicket taker in
Mm.
ODIs this year. So he's just been fantastic for them. And I think that's probably they've not really recovered from that, as well as not having the same level of world class spinners as other teams. Like, yeah, Mitch Santner, I've been banging on about Mitch Santner for the since we started this podcast. Um, Great player, awesome player, but and I think he's a world class spinner. But as you say, there's no one else to back that up
Yeah.
and play the second spinner role. Um, but yeah, so Fakhar Zaman came out, smashed that 126. I mean, he was just running down the wicket to Mitch Santner and just making him look silly.
Yeah.
And he was hitting some absolute bombs. It's wild to me how he got dropped so early on in this tournament and has had to like wait for his chance again. And
Yeah.
he's come out and he's hit two back-to-back fantastic game-winning knocks. I think he scored was it an 80 odd
Um,
against Bangladesh?
yeah. Yeah, he's looking like he's in great
Yeah,
form.
yeah, yeah.
Really
He
good
scored
form.
81 against Bangladesh and really broke the back of that chase. So he's in that awesome form, and yeah,
Mm.
they ended up winning by 21 runs on DLS. But even if I think it hadn't gone to Duckworth Lewis, I think potentially they may have been able to chase that score, and it would have been an even bigger story.
Yeah. I mean, INDvSA Huck has been he's not on the Pakistan. He's been sacked for something, hasn't he? He's no longer the chair of selectors or something for Pakistan.
Yeah,
And Fakhar Zaman has come in for Imam ul Huq, who is Inzamam's nephew. So I don't know if there was some shady stuff going on there. I'm just going to leave that there, and the people in the comments can inform us more because we don't want to spread rumors or anything. However, something that's not shady and something that's awesome for you to do is to become a member of the Cricket Nerds. You can
yes.
join Look Who's Watching and Parv. Benj?
Yes, become a member, support the channel even further. You already support the channel by just watching, but you can further support us by becoming a member. You get the cool emojis. And coming soon, we're going to have some member only content, which we're
Yeah,
working
some
on
perks.
hard in the background. But yeah, become a member, support the podcast even further, and we'll love you forever more than we already do.
Yeah, awesome. So let's talk about India Sri Lanka because this
Yes.
game was,
Gosh.
again, another absolutely insane performance from India. How are they to be stopped, really? Because firstly, they put up scores of over 350 without really trying. I mean, you look at how well Kohli's doing, Rohit Sharma, um, and then it backs up by players like Shubman Gill, Shreyas Iyer, Suryakumar Yadav, KL Rahul. They've just got so many star quality players who are just performing game after game, um, to to put up some ridiculous scores. And then to top it all off, they've got a bowling attack which is just imperious. They just look so good. I mean, Mohammad Shami, for me, he's the bane of every batting side. Like and I reckon he's more scary than Jasprit Bumrah. Like Jasprit Bumrah will, well, he's scary in that he'll run in with a smile on his face and just bowl with this weird action and just
Smiling
hassle
assassin.
you. But then Mohammad Shami, he's just like, he's the underrated cricketer of this Indian team, isn't he? That just performs every single game. It's like you can't write him off anymore.
Yeah, I think um Shami not being in there for a long time was I mean, it doesn't really matter when
No,
India
it's
are
not a
putting up
mistake,
the
is it?
performances that they're doing. It's not a mistake, is it? Because it's subtle to Kerr instead. They just look completely unbeatable. Bit of news: Prashid Krishna, I believe, has come in to now replace Hardik Pandya
Yeah.
through injury. So there's another seam option that's now come in. Interesting that they've gone with Krishna because he's not really renowned for his batting, I would say. He's more of a bowler who can swing it around a little bit. So I'm thinking that they're probably going to be keeping a similar team, with Sky batting at number 6. But why change? Like India have been coming through here and have been playing fantastically with this side. Again against Sri Lanka, Shubman Gill came back into the fore. He's not had the World Cup we expect. He's not set the world on fire. I think probably due to a bit of illness, but he was looking fantastic again. And as you say, Zach, when there's the star quality that India do have with Kohli, Iyer, KL Rahul, that every single one of those names you would see on any team sheet in the world. Yeah, they look unbeatable on their own doorstep as well. I have to say, honourable mention to Dilshan Madashankar with his fifer. Bit expensive, but
Yeah.
still, 5 wickets is
Yeah.
5 wickets. And dismissing, I think 5 of the top 6 of India as well.
Been one of the bright sparks for Sri Lanka in this tournament. Really, he's regularly taken wickets. I think he's taken a wicket in his first over of every single game, or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's definitely impressed. But yeah, it's hard to watch from a Sri Lankan fan. For any Sri Lankan fan when they play India, it's not good. I think they've scored 105 runs in the last 2 one-day matches against
yeah,
India,
yeah,
which is
yeah.
disappointing for them.
Yeah, the Asia Cup final was the other game, wasn't it, where they just got
They got hammered again.
decimated in there as well. But yeah, being bowled up for 55, chasing over 350, I'm glad that England haven't quite had the worst performance
Oh
in the
yeah.
world.
Oh, it's still to
Um,
come. Wait for the Netherlands game.
well, yeah, even though Sri Lanka have beaten England, so what does that say about England, really? There, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Not great things. But yeah, India, man, they're just unbeatable.
Don't you think it's just the role definition? Every single player knows exactly what their role is and how to execute it in a way that's good on these Indian pitches. And that's
Yeah,
obviously the benefit of being in India. But this whole tournament, India haven't really been challenged that much. I mean, there have been a few blips here or there. They're batting against England, for example. But their response with the ball just proved that they're not going to lose many games, if any. Tomorrow, though, they're playing South Africa, who were another
yes.
team which, for me, have a very clear role definition and have been consistent with that throughout the World Cup. Um, do you think, given their all-round strength with both bat and ball, they have a chance to beat India?
I think that South Africa have the biggest chance of beating India. I think
Mm.
they, the way that they've looked in this tournament. I mean, India have played 7 and won 7 so far. Um, South Africa have lost that freak game against the Netherlands. Um, but yeah, I think South Africa seem to be the team that could come close. I think for this game, the toss is going to be really important.
Mm.
South Africa have currently batted first in 5 of their games, and they've scored over 300 in all of those games, I believe, when they've batted first.
Yeah.
So I think for South Africa, I mean, and again, they did manage to, they've won a game from batting second as well. I think the only, yeah, because the only game that they lost was that freakish defeat to the Netherlands. But yeah, I think the only game that they batted second was against Pakistan when Pakistan, I think, won the toss and
Yeah, they
batted.
scraped home against Pakistan there.
But yeah, they scraped home. It was looking shaky. It was a really tight finish. So I think the toss is going to be really crucial. Because yeah, I'm just having a quick look. They've every time they've batted first, they have scored 428, 311, 399, 382, and 357.
Yeah,
So
not
big
bad, is it?
over 300 scores every time they've batted first. So I think for South Africa, it's going to be the toss is going to be such a key thing for them against India. However, saying that, India's bowling attack will be the hardest bowling attack that South Africa would have faced.
Mm.
So in that case, it'll be interesting to see. Yeah, if they will have to be at their absolute best to beat India tomorrow. I think Quinton de Kock will have to play another key role in that. But as you say, there is that role definition in that team, and I think they've got all of the pieces. They just all need to execute.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at the South Africa team, you think, yes, they've got the ability to upset India. Um, they've definitely got that the way they play this tournament. However, when you flip it on the other side, India have the team to upset South Africa in a lot of ways. I mean, if a bowling side is going to expose the long tail that South Africa possess, then it's them. I mean, South Africa have a few things going for them in that Rassie van der Dusen scored a very impressive century against New Zealand recently. They've got Heinrich Klaasen, who's so good against spin in those middle overs. David Miller, he's also very good in Indian conditions, proven record in the IPL, and very destructive. So they've got that makeup. It's whether they can get on top of the Indian bowlers. That's what we've not seen all tournament, is any team actually get on top of Indians bowlers, and South Africa might be able to do that. We'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, I think you're really on the money with that one because particularly it's India's seamers.
Mm.
So seamers across the board have struggled in this World Cup. I think anyone with pace, so Mark Wood has struggled. Mitchell Stark has struggled. Pat Cummins has had to reinvent himself as a bowler who bowls cutters in the middle overs rather than bowl pace at the top. Lockie Ferguson. It's
Mm-hmm.
only really been Bumrah, Shami, and Siraj who've been able to just play their normal game, and whether that's a home field advantage or they're just used to the conditions, it's only really been those Indian seamers who've been able to look themselves. Shaheen Shah Afridi's not been at his best all the way through. Same with Ngidi and Rabada. I can never say his name properly with my stutter. So they've all struggled all the way through. So it's how can the South African opening batters get on top in that opening spell? Can they even survive the power play and then muscle on from there? That
Yeah.
would be interesting to see how that's going.
Yeah. So India, South Africa tomorrow. Very much looking forward to that game. Should be a great one. And those two teams, top of the table, automatically qualifying for the semi-final.
Yep.
The only other team really in contention for that semi-final spot is Afghanistan, who looked quite impressive. Again, in their last two games, I mean, they beat Sri Lanka quite impressively by 7 wickets with 28 balls remaining. They seem to do what England couldn't against Sri Lanka, and that was without Ramanathan Gurbaz scoring any runs. He was out for a duck in that game, and he's been their mainstay really. So the fact that they've got an informed batting lineup, we know how dangerous certain of their bowlers are, like Faruqi, Majib, Rashid Khan, Mohammed Abi. They've got some good bowlers as well. The question is, if they want to get into the semi-finals, can they cause an upset against Australia or South Africa, which is their last two games? If they can,
Indeed.
if they can cause an upset, if they can bat second against South Africa, no, bat first against South Africa, who knows, right? Afghanistan could be going into the semi-final of this World Cup, having not won a single World Cup game previous to this year. So they're the underdogs. So we always, now England are out, we're going to root for the underdogs. So maybe Afghanistan can get in that semi-final spot. Yeah.
I tell you what, they've impressed me all the way through the competition. They've really been like the find of the tournament. I think the way that they've performed, I think it started with that performance against England, and they're now winning 3 on the bounce. Arguably against the not as stronger teams. I mean, Pakistan in there, they've managed to beat Pakistan, which isn't an easy task to do. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. And yeah, they come from behind, and can they beat Australia, who are on this winning streak now?
Yeah.
It will be interesting. I want nothing more than for Afghanistan to shove it to the Aussies. It will be fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean,
Rashid
I
Khan
don't
versus
think
Adam Zampa.
exactly. Yeah, I don't think Australia can now not qualify. I think they've got a game in
Maybe.
hand over Pakistan and New Zealand. So yeah. So Australia have 2 games left, and they're on 10 points. So yeah, there's no one that can. Pakistan and New Zealand can't both get to 12. So yeah, I don't think Australia cannot get in that semi-final spot now. So
Yeah.
I think it's really just New Zealand, Pakistan, and Afghanistan fighting it out for that 4th place spot.
Yeah, should be good.
Yeah, interesting. Come on, Afghanistan. That's what I want to say.
Well, yeah, there's still lots to play for. It's heating up. The competition is great. Everyone is in except for England. No, that's a lie, because Bangladesh are also not in. But yeah, it should be a good rest of the tournament. So if you've enjoyed this podcast, make sure you leave a like. Greatly appreciate that. It really helps. Also, you can subscribe. We're steadily getting towards our 3,000 subscriber milestone, so that would help us out as well. So thank you so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed, and we'll see you next time.